this is your new movie after Resolution that wins in Madrid Film Festival. Could you tell me which is the beginning of the project?
Get started with you.
Yeah, we wrote Spring while we were mixing Resolution. And Resolution at that time, we didn't know if it would just be sitting on a hard drive for the rest of eternity or as long as hard drives last. And oddly enough, it's written in some ways as a reaction to what we did in Resolution, just in terms of, well, Resolution's a very unique deconstruction of a friendship with a genre element, a unique genre element heavily tied to that conflict, the conflicts in their relationship. And Spring is more of that, but it's an escalation in that it's a deconstruction of a romance in a very unique way. And I would say the genre mythology in Spring is probably more heavily integrated into the character, literally the characters of Spring than Resolution was.
Okay, you shoot in Italy, the movie, I think, or some parts in Italy. For you, is shooting in another country.
Oh, how is
easy
it?
for you or not?
We were told that it could be very difficult to shoot abroad, and of course it adds a little bit to your budget and all of that. But we shot with a purely Italian crew, and we've been kind of warned, like, oh, it's just very difficult to get a film made there, and it's expensive and all that. Man, that was so incorrect. It was so smooth. We found an incredible producer in Luca Legnani, and they took care of us like better than a lot of American productions, and we just felt like we were a family. That was we all lived in this little small town together, and we'd all walk to set every day because almost every set was right there, and we couldn't be happier. It was so gorgeous all the time, and even on our very, very, very tight budget, everybody seemed to be very happy and hardworking, and I feel like the quality went straight up on screen. So
it's very difficult to work with a little budget.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing of oftentimes European directors, and not only European directors, Americans are like this too, but a lot of times European directors, the end game is to go make movies in Hollywood. For American independent filmmakers, we're always trying to go make movies in Europe. So we felt like we made it. We did it.
It's good.
Mission accomplished.
Well, which is your way to choose the actors for this movie?
Well, Lou we were fans of his work in Thumbsucker and Evil Dead, and we were aware of him, and we just thought it'd be a really good match for the role. And then once he was cast, we could go pretty much cast whoever we wanted in the female love interest role. And we reached out to a whole bunch of friends that are producers in Europe, looking for this girl that you couldn't quite place ethnically and racially, and with a very unique accent. And she's probably the only person on the planet that could play that role.
It's curious because it's a movie that is based on the characters of the movie. Mm-hmm. It's the same as Resolution, because the movie are the characters.
Yeah.
What is happening with them in this moment?
Well, we produce our own films, and so everything is a constant compromise between what you want and the budget. And the one thing we just can't compromise on ever is cast and rehearsal. Yeah. And the good news is he writes, so we never have to compromise on the script. But that's always the big thing that we talk about is like, look, I don't mind if this isn't lit perfectly. I don't mind if we don't get quite enough coverage. What we do mind is if we are forced into casting actors we don't feel confident in. And every time we make a casting decision, it's a very singular decision of just like, this is the person for it, and they're the only person for it. And that's how it was with Lou and Nadia.
I'm very curious because Resolution and Spring are very difficult projects to explain somebody, to get financial, or how do you do that? Because there are very, how is the word? Very powerful history behind, but it's not a movie that could an investor to say, hey, take the money, make the movie. Not. I think that it was very difficult to finance these movies. Those are very personal.
When we're not locked up in a room writing, locked up in a room doing visual effects, locked up in a room editing with our sound mixer Yael. We're out hitting the pavement, pitching movies over and over and over, and you just find the hook to the story. It's always more difficult to do something if it's not as simple as zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
You can crunch the numbers right now. I can tell you what a zombie apocalypse is going to make with that actor. Yeah, that's easier. But we found that most producers, and increasingly so, are becoming receptive to our more decidedly unique approach in our stories, and finding unique ways of telling stories. Not everyone has to do that. You can tell a vampire story in a wonderful, wonderful way. We've seen them on the film festival circuit, but we just would rather do something more unique. But it is just like pitching over and over and over, and like watching people's eyes.
Yeah. And it's not trying to find like any way to trick them into the movie. Every time the pitch is the movie.
Yeah.
It's just when you see the movie, it's surprisingly not a risky. None of our movies are risky investments or anything like that.
No.
It's only that the way in. A log line isn't what sells a movie. I mean, it's the movie that sells the movie, and the whole marketing campaign, an entire marketing campaign. And so the fact that like the poster doesn't pop up in your head immediately, but it eventually does, and it sounds pretty incredible. There's a gentleman swimming right over here. I just want to describe it to you.
It's crazy.
He's swimming like a gazelle jumps through the tundra.
Here we say as elephant in cacharreria, how we call it that.
It's incredible.
I'm not gonna.
This only happens here.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pull punches. This stroke is not clean.
No, it's not. No, he's loud. He's not loud.
Is there?
No, he's
Okay.
there. He is. There's that gentleman.
And also make sure you go to the Mercedes right here. That's an interesting. It's like a Fellini movie.
Please remove your head.
It's like.
It's our getaway car. We'll just keep ready in case we do something at the hotel we regret.
Well, it's your first time in Sitges?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about the festival?
Oh my gosh.
Oh well, it's paradise. And the program's amazing this year. There's so many good movies.
I haven't seen a bad movie. I haven't seen. I mean, that's
But
it's
you
pretty
are in
incredible.
parties all the day. You are not seeing movies.
Yeah, I saw a few movies. I saw a
Hey,
few
we're not
movies.
going to parties all the time.
Hey, all right.
It's a joke.
No, honestly, we've seen some pretty incredible programming here, and I realized this once I got there, because we've been to a lot of the big, the other big genre festivals like Fantasia and Fantastic and all that, and I didn't quite realize that they didn't have a like a can. You know what I mean? Whereas this is kind of like you go in and it's like Mediterranean kind of.
It's the same feeling.
And it's pretty incredible.
I asked you before this question because there are a lot of directors that feels a little love with the festival, because they hear about the festival in another festivals, or he's reading about the festivals in magazines, or looking movies like the John Carpenter Masters of Horror movie or another ones. And I think that you are big fans of the genre. I'm wrong?
Of genre film?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't really grow up with it though. I grew up reading Stephen King, and that's kind of probably what brought me into this. But I have a decidedly bad knowledge of like 80s, 90s horror, and so every time that you go to a festival, everyone talks about it all the time, and I'm kind of like, yeah. The Shining. I saw The Shining. But I do know a decent amount about Stephen King, and all of the books I would read would always be like something slightly fantastic, which is kind of what ties into why I'm doing this kind of thing.
There's I'll catch comments on like message boards sometimes, or the occasional blogger who will sort of would suggest that a film they saw by a filmmaker, that filmmaker doesn't actually like genre, that the genre element was brought in for sales purposes. We've literally never met that person. Like, we know lots of filmmakers, we literally have never met one filmmaker who consciously did that. We all love genre. We all love genre. We all love all kinds of movies. And but yeah, I think audiences can take comfort in that. It's like, it might literally not exist. Is like the director who's like, well, I really wanted to do this really quiet character drama, but I had to put in the girl who metabolizes her own embryonic stem cells.
Yeah.
And, there's a weird, like, it just doesn't really happen. It's funny, we've actually spoken with European directors who have wanted to play up the genre elements of the movie a bit more and make them more prominent.
Yeah.
And apparently in France it's really hard to get money to do very much outside of romantic comedies with certain French actors and things like that. But you know, if you look at like the recent history of French cinema and what's come out of there, like it was like barely 10 years ago that French extreme horror was like a big thing. Like there were tons of guys doing these and those movies are really big technical achievements. Like those are, in America we don't have horror movies that are actually that big a budget unless they're big Hollywood horror movies, and which is something different. But to feel that personal touch and to see the sort of the artistry of the practical effects in those movies they're amazing. And that wasn't that long ago, and there were so many of them, there must have been a great market for it. So it's interesting now that, you know, that's everything, ebbs and flows, hills and valleys of